Today we're talking about simple travel trailers. A buddy of mine bought one of those high-tech trailers with smart controls and whatnot and instantly regretted it. The electronics needed constant adjustments, the repairs were expensive, and half the trip was spent troubleshooting instead of relaxing. Because here's what the industry doesn't tell you. You don't need fancy electronics for a great camping experience. That's why today I'm breaking down the simple travel trailers that people love. Easy to use and proof that simple really is best. Starting off, the Tusca Hitchhiker is essentially a weatherproof pod for your truck bed or even a small trailer. Just walls, a door, and insulation. What makes it work is the thick foam construction that holds heat so well you can stay comfortable in freezing temps with just body warmth and a small heater. No plumbing to winterize, no electronics to troubleshoot, no systems that stop working when you're 3 hours from civilization. You're literally bolting a 190-pound insulated shell into your truck and calling it done. The trade-off? You're building everything else yourself. Mattress, storage, power setup. It's a blank canvas, not a turnkey solution. But for solo travelers or couples who want something tougher than a rooftop tent without the maintenance headaches of a full camper, this thing just works. And at under $3,000, you're spending less than most people drop on gear they'll never actually use. The Aero Burnside takes the teardrop concept and squares it off, which sounds like a small change until you're actually inside. That extra headroom and the 54 by 80-inch sleeping area mean you're not doing the claustrophobic shuffle every morning, and the bed converts to a couch so the space actually works during the day. The rear galley has double doors that open wide for cooking access, and there's real storage instead of just a shelf. What keeps this simple is the straightforward steel frame and aluminum construction. Nothing exotic to repair, no complicated systems to diagnose when something goes wrong. The base model starts around 16 to 18 grand. But here's where it gets tricky. Most people end up adding lithium batteries, awnings, roof racks, and heating, which pushes you toward 25 or 30,000. You're essentially buying a solid platform and deciding what matters to you instead of getting a preloaded package with stuff you might not want. The Beanstalk Teardrop nails something a lot of manufacturers miss. Durability doesn't have to mean overbuilt. This thing uses one-piece fiberglass construction, so there's literally no seams to leak or wood to rot out after a few seasons of rain. People who've had theirs for over a year say they just hose it down and it's clean, which sounds small until you've spent an afternoon trying to scrub mildew out of fabric or track down a mystery leak. The rear galley is completely exposed with no enclosure, which cuts weight and gives you one less door mechanism to break. Trade-off? You're setting up your kitchen outside in the weather instead of undercover. But at 1,200 pounds, you can tow this with almost anything, and the storage is surprisingly smart. Bins that open from inside and outside, so you're not crawling around in the dirt for your camp chair. Starting around 16 grand, it's priced like an entry-level teardrop, but built like something twice the cost. Next up, a simple travel trailer with serious off-grid capability. The Teardrop Alpha is what happens when you strip a teardrop down to its actual job, getting you off the ground in places where rooftop tents won't cut it. The entire shell is coated in truck bed liner, which means you're not tiptoeing around branches or worrying about trail pinstripes. At 700 pounds, it tows behind practically anything, and the axle-less suspension soaks up washboard roads without the maintenance headaches of traditional axles. Here's the thing though, it's legitimately bare bones. No built-in kitchen, no electrical unless you add it, just a weatherproof box with a bed platform and some shelves. You're basically buying a bomb-proof sleeping pod and building your camp setup around it. For around $5,500 base, or 13 grand for the full off-road Alpha package, it's aimed at people who'd rather spend money on the trip than the trailer. But if you need more than shelter and storage, this might feel too stripped down. The Zion off-road trailers solve a problem most people don't realize they have until they own a trailer for a year. Your needs change, but your trailer doesn't. These use a bolt-on system where you can add or swap gear racks, kitchens, rooftop storage, whatever you need, without drilling permanent holes or committing to one setup forever. Start with the bare Z2 utility model to haul bikes and firewood, then bolt on the camping accessories when you're ready for overnights. The simplicity here isn't about having less, it's about not being locked into decisions you made 2 years ago. Downside? You're starting with a pretty basic platform, so getting it fully outfitted means buying add-ons. and that adds up fast. Base models run 15 to 20 grand, but a fully kitted Z1 with upgraded suspension and accessories pushes closer to 35. Still, for people who actually use their trailers in different ways throughout the year, that flexibility is worth it. The Runway Venturist is for people who'd rather build their setup than pay for someone else's idea of what camping should look like. You're getting a solid shell with timber and suspension that'll handle fire roads and rocky trails, but everything else, galley, electrical, storage layout, that's on you. And weirdly, people love this. There are owners who've had theirs through tornadoes and cross-country trips for 5 years, saying it's still going strong, partly because there's just not much to break. At under 1,000 pounds, you can tow it with basically any vehicle that has a hitch, which opens up trail access that heavier rigs can't touch. The catch is obvious. You're starting with a $10,000 blank slate. Add a galley kit, awning, electrical, and you're pushing 20 grand while doing the install work yourself. But if you know what you actually need and hate paying for features you'll never use, this approach makes sense. The Sprocket 3.0 from Off-Grid Trailers nails something critical. It lets you start simple and grow without replacing the whole trailer. You've got 3 trim levels on the same platform: Base Trailhead for basic camping, Ridge with water and ventilation, and Summit with a full drop-down kitchen and convertible couch. All of them use the same powder-coated aluminum body and timber and suspension, so you're getting the same durability whether you spend 18 grand or 32. What matters here is that all metal construction holds up to trail abuse without the maintenance drama of wood frames and composite panels. People say these shake off rocks and branches like they're nothing. The limitation? Base model is genuinely bare. No water system, no kitchen, just a sleeping pod with basic electrical. You're either adding gear or jumping to a higher trim, and that decision affects your budget significantly. At 1,200 pounds though, you can tow it with a Subaru, which opens up access most heavier rigs can't touch. Now, before we get to my final 2 absolute favorite campers on this list, if you're into no BS breakdowns like this, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Not ready for that? Totally fine. Just drop a like instead, because that's what helps me know this kind of content is actually useful. The hiker trailer lineup is what happens when a company figures out that one size fits all doesn't actually fit anyone. They build everything from an 800-pound highway light you can tow with a Civic all the way up to a serious extreme off-road model with 33-inch tires for truck owners hitting remote trails. What makes this work is you're not paying for capability you don't need. If you're doing state parks and pavement, grab the highway model for under 9 grand and call it done. Need something tougher? The mid-range and extreme options scale up without dumping a bunch of unnecessary tech into the mix. That galley pass-through window into the sleeping area is genuinely useful when you're making coffee in the morning, and the all-aluminum body means you're not dealing with wood rot in 5 years. The catch is pricing. Once you get past the base highway light, you're looking at $24,000 to $35,000 depending on the model, and custom builds take months. But the customer service reputation is real, and people almost treat it like joining a club, which gives it bonus points in my books. Let's wrap this up with the TC Teardrops Original, and here's why it earns the top spot. This thing has been around for over 16 years with people buying their second and third units from the same company. That doesn't happen unless something works. You're looking at a straightforward teardrop with a bed, some storage, basic electrical ports, and a galley shelf in the back. No app to download, no firmware updates, just steel frame construction that after 16 years clearly holds up. The interior has enough room for a queen mattress and the basics you'd actually use on a weekend trip, not a bunch of compartments you'll forget exist. Real talk though, it's pretty bare bones out of the box. You're adding your own mattress, battery, maybe a portable AC if you camp in summer heat. Starting around 10 to 15 grand depending on size and options, it's the kind of trailer that proves my buddy's high-tech nightmare was completely avoidable. That's it for today's breakdown. Let me know in the comments which of these trailers you'd actually take on the road.